Hello and welcome back to Know Your Nonsense Podcast. I'm Timothy Holloway.
And I'm Riley Judd.
I know about history, folklore, and food.
And I know about games, programming, and design.
And neither of us know anything about candles.
We really don't.
So today's episode.
Yes, today's episode.
First in the new year cycle.
Yeah, woo woo, 2021, baby.
Finally out of 2020.
Yes.
Oh, man.
We made it. Good job, all. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Big hand for yourself.
Yeah, a nice treat or something.
Treat
wait,
yourself.
You have a nice treat. It's our podcast.
Oh, my.
So, today's episode, Timothy, what is this?
Well, we're really milking the new year.
Oh, boy.
In starting off strong with an episode on milk.
I'm in physical pain. Okay.
Coming from the guy who literally said something about cows up on a mountain in the Christmas
the stakes
episode.
are high.
The stakes are high.
Are in the mountains.
And you're saying my milking the new year joke is putting you in physical pain.
But mine's actually funny.
I think they were both the same style of funny. I'll admit yours was more clever. I have nothing against admitting that. But really.
Anyway. So, as you all know, I will get on with the summary of milk.
Right.
And then we will get on to the discussing.
Right, and I will let you know if you leave out anything that is possibly important.
Yes.
But I believe in you. You got
thank
this.
You.
Yeah. So, take it away, Riley.
Oh, I shall. So, milk. We have been drinking milk for a long time.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I've been drinking a lot of milk.
The Holloways are obsessed with milk.
Let me just tell you all, during track season or soccer season, it was not uncommon to go through a gallon and a half per meal.
Per meal?
Per meal.
All right, we're just going to let that linger for a moment.
Dude, my bones are like granite.
Okay. Well, we're going back further than that. Obviously, milk is a mammal thing. So, mostly a mammal thing, but we'll get there. So, it's been around since the dawn of time. It's been a thing that mammals have been making for ages. But when did we start drinking milk that is, not ours? When did we start drinking animal milk? So, where did milk originate? Well, according to what I found, it's been a big thing in the early times in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
Right, yeah.
Now, we used to not really have the ability to drink milk as adults. Obviously, all kids could drink milk because that's how babies get nutrients.
Yep.
But eventually, around the age of 6 or 7, you would lose the ability to drink milk. So, how did this come about? Well, it's assumed that it started around 10,000 years ago when we domesticated animals. Most historians agree on that. And so the early milk drinkers probably did have a lactose-intolerant reaction to milk.
Oh, that would not have been fun back in that day.
No, but
sure, it isn't fun nowadays either. But
no, but I mean, hey, if you're in a famine or you have no food, being sick is better than dying. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but then, and this is a bit of a side note, fermentation entered. So most of these places didn't really have a good way to store milk, so it quote unquote spoiled.
Yeah,
very fast.
Cottage cheese. Woohoo.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people did. They would turn it into cottage cheese, not milk. Obviously, we're using milk.
Yeah.
But turn it into cottage cheese, yogurt, normal cheese. They would find ways to ferment it, which obviously helped with preservation and also made it easier to digest. So you would have people just incorporating that into their daily routine. So, example, in the Middle East, you would milk your animals in the morning. You would leave that milk out, and by noon, you would have yogurt. So, we mentioned that this happened with the domestication of animals. Sheep were the first domesticated milk animal, followed by goats and cattle. And then, of course, we got a whole bunch of others, such as donkeys, buffalo, horses.
Yaks.
Yeah, yaks, camels, llamas, lots of good stuff. So, this is kind of a fun aside, but it's actually... donkey milk is considered the closest to human milk.
Yeah.
Yes, we will get to why that is later. But just kind of as an aside. So it was actually often used if you had orphaned or sick infants. They would use donkey milk because it was the best.
Sense. Yeah.
So also Scandinavia uses reindeer. That's just a fun note I have.
That's just awesome.
Yeah.
Because Scandinavia rocks, man.
Yes. So obviously, as we started to gain the ability to drink milk without vomiting our guts out, we started to learn how to better handle milk. And so the first thing that happened was homogenization. So homogenization is how you prevent the separation between the fat in the milk and the milk itself, because they, generally speaking, want to separate and the fat will float to the top. And you don't want that. You want all your nutrients and all your goodies inside your milk. So they would perform homogenization. So you would just shake it, you would do things to it to make sure all of that stuff stayed combined.
Shaken, not stirred.
Not stirred. Nowadays, homogenization is done by squeezing milk through like small holes with high pressure. So that just keeps
makes
everything...
all the particles smaller and easier to disperse and stay there.
Yes. So that's how it's done today, but we're not there yet.
Right.
So, as we said, it was still making people very sick, and even once we started to learn how to digest it, it was still making people sick. Now, this mostly happened once we hit the industrialization age, so we have fast-forwarded quite a ways, we've skipped a lot.
Right.
But, we're in America, we have industrialization happening, and so it was actually one of the first foods affected by industrialization. In 1879, Anna Baldwin, this woman was the first one to make the first milking machine. So she had these rubber cups that would attach to cow teats. That's how you get the milk. And those were attached to a pump. It was not very effective. It had a lot of flaws, but it took off immediately. And it became a very popular industry to get milk because it had a lot of nutrients. When you had things such as the Great Depressions and wars, it was, generally speaking, not rationed. So it was a good way to get calories and other essential things for living.
Right.
But as we said, around this time, it was making a lot of people sick. It was, in fact, killing lots of people. So,
Yikes, death by milk, what a way to go.
Oh, it was estimated that a lot, like, I don't remember the exact number. I didn't write it down because I'm a terrible person. But, like, half the deaths in Boston or New York, I don't remember which, or something like that, during this time frame, death was by bad milk.
Yikes.
Yes. So, what was the issue? Well, they were getting poisoned by this milk. So, they would have cows in pretty horrible conditions. Because now that there was automation, you didn't really have the actual dairy farmers involved with the cows. And so there was a little bit less incentive to keep the cows' area clean and nice.
Right, yeah.
So, the biggest issue was when you had people who would have milk farms right next to breweries, and they would take the steaming remains of the grain distillation, and that's what they would feed to the cows.
Right, yeah. Cheap and easy, right there.
Right there. Terrible for the cows.
Absolutely the worst.
And so it created what is known as swill milk, which is, it's kind of blue tinted. And
that just sounds disgusting.
Oh, bad stuff.
Swill milk.
And like I said, it was tinted blue. It was not the correct color. And so, well, what do? Well, instead of, working to make better milk, let's just dye the milk. And so they would add things such as chalk or flour or other things to make it whiter. And this caused a lot of people to die. Well, the public caught on pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, there was great public outrage and things were made much better. And the biggest advancement, there was a scientific advancement that helped, which is pasteurization. So this was discovered by a man named Louis Pasteur, and he was also the one who discovered the germs that were in the milk that were making people sick. And so with this discovery, he discovered how to beat it, which was heat. So if you heated the milk to a certain temperature, then you could kill all of those germs and bacteria that were killing people. And so this became a highly scrutinized process. Some people thought that pasteurized milk didn't taste right, and some people thought it was getting rid of all the nutritional value.
I mean, when you think about it, it probably tasted radically different, but it's because what they were drinking before was
not good.
Really bad for you.
Yeah. So even today, there is some debate over pasteurization, but there is no doubt that it does kill a lot of the germs that could very easily make people sick from milk that they would be drinking. So there are different ways to pasteurize milk. This mostly has to do with the temperature you take the milk to and how long you get it to that temperature. So generally speaking, the higher the heat, then the shorter a time you keep the milk at that heat.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And this will have different effects. But the biggest effect that it has is it does help with the shelf life. So it prolongs it. Raw milk, so milk that's just straight out of the animal, only lasts about 1 to 3 days in the refrigerator.
Yeah, no, that stuff goes real quick.
Real quick.
Which, for those of you who didn't know, there are places where you can buy raw milk.
Yes.
It's not very widely sold because of FDA regulations and everything.
Yes, it's actually one of the most regulated foods in most countries around the world.
Yeah,
Some
that
countries,
tracks.
it's completely illegal to sell raw milk because of these kinds of health regulations. But either way, it's a food that has stood the test of time. It's one of the most controversial. It's actually one of the first foods that was tested on in a scientific laboratory, and this led to discoveries such as powdered milk. There was a Russian scientist who was able to discover the technology to make powdered milk, which has all the nutrients but is portable, lighter, and has a better shelf life. So that's some briefness over the history, but what exactly is milk? What is the stuff? Well,
moo juice.
Yes. No. At the basis of it, it's an emulsion of protein, fat, and water with dissolved sugar, vitamins, and minerals. Now, the ratios of these things differ depending on where you're getting your milk. Namely, it differs in between the mammal species that generate the milk, but if you are also making milk, which we will get to, from different plants, then it will also have different ratios and such. So, the biggest thing about milk is it's lactose, that is the sugar molecule that is in milk. And that is actually what makes it so hard for some people to digest. So we, as people, are able to generate an enzyme known as lactase. Lactase is what actually digests the lactose. So around 6 or 7, bodies can start to lose the ability to generate lactase. So now you can no longer digest milk because you can't digest the lactose. And that's what causes that intolerant reaction. So, but some other things about milk. It's a shame if you cannot digest milk. I am so sorry for all of those of you who
really,
can't.
Though.
Because,
I feel for you guys.
Yes. Because it is honestly a very powerful food. It is a complete food, so that means that you can solely live off of milk if you have to. 80% of the proteins in it are really easy to digest, and it's a good source of protein. It's just that terrible lactose getting in the way. It is just packed full of vitamins such as A, D, C, and B. Nowadays, commercial cow's milk have added vitamins A and D. They want more of that in it. It's full of minerals such as calcium and phosphorus. It's got lots of digestive enzymes which help with digestion and stomach health. And the proteins in milk actually contain the 8 essential amino acids, which are beneficial to your health as well. So let's talk about the varieties, because this is actually very interesting.
There's so many varieties of milk.
So many. And so I go into this and I already know, okay, obviously we're going to have like cow's milk and goat's milk, but I wasn't even considering some of the things that we were going to get to. So sit down, buckle up, because you're in for a ride. So we have to, there's no real good starting place. So the first thing I want to start with, we're going to start with your standard milks, right? The first thing that we're going to talk about is ultra-filtered milk. So ultra-filtered milk is milk that has been mechanically filtered to create a higher concentration of protein while removing some of the sugar and water. So this can be done for just about any kind of milk. It's just a mechanical process of filtering it, but this makes it more protein rich, and it has less sugars. So it's a little healthier, some say.
Yeah.
So next we're going to get into what we see in the grocery stores. So you have whole milk, 2%, 1%, skim. What are these milks? Well, starting with whole milk, it goes back to those percentages on the others, 2%, 1%. Normal cow's milk has generally about 3.5% fat content in it. So in a gallon, you have about 3.5% of that drink being fat.
Right.
And so when they say whole milk, that is the amount of percent that you are getting because they have not removed any of the fat in that milk. 2%, that is reduced. So we have reduced from 3.5% down to 2. They have taken some of it out. That is a lot better than what I originally thought because I thought we were basing it on whole, obviously 100% of, I don't know, the fat that was just in it, and then we take it down to 2%. I was like,
that would be taking a lot of
That's
fat.
a lot of fat, and I was always confused by that, but I never thought to actually look up why it's called 2%.
No, yeah, same.
So that's why they've removed about 1.5% of the fat. And then you have 1%, which is low fat. Obviously, we've just gone down from 3.5 to 1%. And then you have skim or fat-free milk, which it's just all removed. They've taken out all of the fat from the milk. Then you have lactose-free milk. So lactose-free milk is milk that has lactase added into it. Because as mentioned, lactase is just an enzyme. So they just take the enzyme, they stick it in the milk, and that helps with the digestion of the milk for people who cannot generate lactase, because it's already in there. Then you got the host of plant-based milks. So these are technically not milks. They're milk alternatives.
What exactly constitutes a milk?
Yes, there's a lot of debate at whether or not plant-based milks should actually be considered milk. I'm not really going to weigh in on it because A, I don't know enough, B, I don't really care. But going into these plant-based milks, because they're going to be in the milk aisle.
Right, and if you're uncomfortable with calling them milk alternatives,
whatever.
So do your thing.
Yes. So first we got soy milk. So this is done by soaking dry soybeans and then grinding them in water until they and the water are combined. And it is absolutely packed with nutrients and is considered the second healthiest milk after cow's milk. So if you have to pick a milk substitute, this is considered the best, though some people don't really care for the taste. Next you have almond milk. So this is basically the same thing, but instead you are using roasted almonds in the water. You're grinding them up and putting them in water. So this is the lowest calorie milk. So if you're looking for a low calorie option, this is the way to go. Then you have rice milk, which this one is done by boiling brown rice and then mixing it with brown rice starch and brown rice syrup. And this is the most hypoallergenic, so it is most likely not going to have anybody allergic to it.
It's good to know.
Yes. However, it is low in protein and calcium, which is something that a lot of people go to their milk for. Next, you got oat milk, which is water and any kind of oat, steel cut, rolled, or whole, carefully strained. It is very thin, and it is great for pancakes, and some say coffee. I disagree with those people, but
I can't imagine that.
No, and my source specifically said, oh yes, because it's thin, it's great in coffee, and I'm just sitting there like, why? Why is that a benefit? I use cream. I use my nice creamer, which we will get to. Cream.
Yeah, I was about to say, cream.
We will get there. It's coming up. So after oat milk, you have hemp milk, which is basically the same thing, but with grinded hemp seeds. Now, this one's a little controversial because hemp seeds do grow into marijuana. However, hemp seeds do not contain THC, which is the actual drug found in marijuana, so you cannot get high off of hemp seed milk. So,
not gonna lie, I saw THC in your notes, and I was like, where is this coming into play? Because I let him do a lot on the plant milk stuff, and I didn't research that as much, but that explains it. Okay, yes. I didn't even think about that, but it makes sense.
Yes, so just a little knowledge there. Then you got coconut milk, which this is a mixture of the coconut meat and the coconut water. So
delicious, oh my word.
Yes, depending on how it's mixed together, I didn't find a whole lot in this process. I could have looked up more. I didn't. I'm sorry. But there is thick and there is thin. I don't know the mechanical distinctions of both. It has to do with how the coconut meat is used. But I don't have a clear answer for you. Going back to different, what I kind of consider cooking milks. So these are milks that you will find in your baking aisles and your cooking aisles. So first up is buttermilk. This is literally just fermented milk. So it used to be made from the leftover liquid from making butter. So you would make butter and then from your milk, and then you would have leftover liquid, and that's your buttermilk. But now it's done by adding bacteria to the milk and then just literally leaving it out to ferment. You can actually make your own buttermilk. I believe you can make almost like a buttermilk substitute, can't you? If you use like lemon juice or something.
Yeah, if you take like, I think it's 1/4 to 1 parts milk. Don't quote me on that. Just Google how to make a buttermilk substitute. Yes. But I can tell you now, it's like milk, and then you add a little bit of lemon juice to it, let it sit for a little bit, and it makes a buttermilk substitute that you can use in cakes and stuff. Yeah. It's really good. Well, in the cake. I haven't just drank it.
Yeah. Then my source said, yeah, you can just drink buttermilk, and I have had buttermilk in my house. Maybe you can. It smells nasty. I don't want to drink that.
Yeah, it's a thing that people do, and some people like it. If you do, more power to you.
More power to you. Let us know if you drink buttermilk.
Yeah.
I will not follow you in your endeavors, but
I haven't tried it in a long time, so maybe I will.
I will not be trying it. So next you got unsweetened condensed milk, better known as evaporated milk. So this is milk that has had 60% of the water removed by simmering it. So that causes the water to evaporate, and it leaves you with a much thicker milk. And so because of this, it is usually used as a cream substitute. So if something requires cream, which we again will be getting to, some people choose to use evaporated milk. Then you have sweetened condensed milk. So this is essentially the same thing, but you generally use specifically cow's milk, and you have added sugar. So you add sugar to the unsweetened condensed milk, obviously, to make sweetened condensed milk. So this is not usually drunk. Some people do drink evaporated milk. That was another one I'm like, okay, a little weird. But
that's a lot.
That's a lot. You do.
It's like reducing a sauce and then just drinking it.
Yep. But most people see sweetened condensed milk as just too sweet, so it's usually added to sweet dishes and drinks. Then you have another variety of this sort, which is dulce de leche, which is, that is Spanish, from Spain, and I think in Mexico it's pronounced dulce de leche. I think the C makes the TH.
You're the one that took Spanish class.
It's been a long time. So sorry if I butchered that, but dulce de leche is essentially caramel-flavored sweetened condensed milk. And they do this by slowly cooking sweetened condensed milk, so some of the sugar in it caramelizes. And so that's how you get dulce de leche. Then,
stuff's delicious.
Oh yeah. My word. I have had some dulce de leche flavored things. It's often used in, ice cream flavors or in coffees, other things, baking. It's very good. So then to talk about some of the animal varieties of milk, obviously you have sheep milk, which was the first domesticated version of milk. And then you have goat milk. These are both very popular in the Southern Europe and Mediterranean area. Goat milk is actually easier on the stomach, and it has a lot of good heart benefits, such as lowering cholesterol. Then you have buffalo milk, which is mostly for Asia, because that is, the animal that they have. It is very fatty and high in calories, so some people do not prefer this milk. You have camel milk, which is very popular in Middle East and North Africa for the same reasons. That's the animal that they have. And obviously there are others that are used, such as, reindeers, llamas. It really depends on the area, mostly, about what kind of milks you're going to get. Right. Obviously, cow milk is the most popular in America. It is said that about 9 out of every 10 glasses of milk in America are cow's milk. But that is not true for the entire world.
Right. I don't know if I've ever tried goat milk, but goat cheese is really good.
Yes.
It uses goat milk, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, goat cheese is going to come from goat milk, so there you go. Yeah.
Maybe I should try just straight goat milk.
I don't know.
Dude, let's get some.
No.
I bet we can order it.
You probably could. But then we have the honorable mentions. These aren't technically milks, but I feel like they are worth addressing. The first is, of course, cream.
Hey, we found it.
So what is the difference between cream and milk? Well, actually, cream is the concentrated fatty layer that rises to the top of unhomogenized milk. So as we mentioned, the milk and the fat want to try to separate, And so, normally we try to keep them together. Well, if you don't normally we try to keep them together. Well, if you don't try to keep them together, that's where you get cream from.
It's where you get the cream of the crop.
Yes. And then you have half and half, which this is regular milk made thicker. So it's generally just milk, whole milk, but with some sort of thickening agent. Sometimes this is cream. That's where the name half and half comes from, because it's half milk, half cream.
That stuff is good.
Yes, but nowadays there's also other things such as corn syrup. So not all half and halves are made equal. So if you do have any dietary restrictions and you wish to use half and half, make sure you check the kind of half and half that you are getting.
Right.
So some of the benefits of milk, these are all just various things that people have said over time. It's very filling, so it can serve as an appetite controller. If you drink milk at a meal or before a meal, you are more likely to eat less. So if that is something that, you're trying to lose weight or, you're an overeater, that's something that's considered helpful. It's important for bone development and health. So almost 1 cup of milk covers about 30% of the recommended calcium intake for adults. So, 3 glasses of milk, you've had just about all your calcium that you need for the day.
Yeah.
It's able to help prevent type 2 diabetes. It raises HDL, which is the good cholesterol, helping prevent heart diseases. And it has a host of other benefits as well, along with being delicious in lots of people's eyes.
Amen.
Yes. I forgot one of my honorary mentions for milk, which is flavored milk, because...
I was wondering if you would get to that.
I forgot about it for a second there. I'm actually not a huge fan of the flavor of just straight milk. It's just not my favorite thing. And so for people like me, we have flavored milks. So the first flavored milk actually came in the late 1600s. The story behind that is you had this Irish botanist, Hans Sloane, who traveled to Jamaica, where the locals gave him a drink of cocoa and water. And he hated it. He thought it was disgusting. So he instead added milk and sugar to try to make the drink more palatable. And this is uncertain if this was ever the first combination of milk and chocolate, but he did bring his recipe back to England, where it was manufactured and sold as medicine, starting the trend of flavored milks. Obviously, there are a whole lot of other flavored milks, the most popular being chocolate milk. The second most popular is strawberry. It's actually my favorite milk. I love strawberry milk.
But good.
Yes, but then you have, of course, lots of others, such as, banana, root beer, coffee, vanilla. You have holiday ones, such as peppermint.
Did you say root beer?
Yeah, there's root beer flavored milk.
I have never heard of that, and I want to try it.
I think it sounds pretty good. I want to try it, too. I saw that, too.
Let's order that instead of goat milk.
Yes, I can get behind that.
Okay, we'll do that.
So, lots of flavors, holiday flavors, peppermint, pumpkin spice, all kinds of stuff. It's a huge industry now, and it's because flavored milk is delicious, and you can cater to people who don't normally drink milk, and this is actually beneficial because milk is still very healthy, so if it encourages you to drink more milk, then hoorah. So what is milk useful for in recipes? So it's obviously a food, so it's going to be used in cooking. Well, obviously it's used to make other dairy products, such as cheeses and yogurts. You can actually find quite a few recipes for just taking your milk at home and turning it into things, such as, butter or Parmesan or things like that. It adds creaminess and sweetness to whatever it's added for, because that is obviously its flavor, so flavor-wise, that is what it's helpful for. It is often used to make doughs and batters, which are both just flour mixed with a liquid. Well, milk is a liquid, so it is able to make both. So this brings us to baking, where it is very prominent. Mm-hmm. So it's really beneficial because the protein in milk softens, contributes moisture, and add color and flavor to baked goods. So it is able to really enhance pastries that it's added to, depending on the kind of pastry being made.
It works hard in the world of baking.
Yes, it also helps give the dough or batter strength and structure, even though it's also providing all of those, nice softening, moisturizing benefits to the final product. So it's really a double whammy when it comes to baking.
Yeah.
So past that, it also helps moisten other dry ingredients that are added to whatever you are baking. And it can dissolve sugar because it is a liquid, and activate gluten. So this helps in any yeast activating properties. So if you have any yeast in your pastry that you're making and you need your dough to rise, milk can help activate it. So other things that can be done with milk, if you add air to milk, you are able to make foams. You add air either by mixing it or steaming it. And this makes varying degrees of fine bubbles. So steaming, I believe, if my source is correct, makes the finer version bubbles, and mixing it makes thicker bubbles.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is used to be put in coffees mostly, lattes, macchiatos, all your fun stuff, all your Starbucks. And it's obviously, because it's a liquid, used in sauces depending on the sauce type. If you are having a cheesy sauce or a white sauce, such as, say, Alfredo,
so good,
you are most likely going to have milk as a base. It is, of course, used to make ice cream, which is a mixture of milk, cream, sugar, and sometimes other ingredients. And it's frozen through various techniques. We might one day have an episode of our ice cream. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That'd be a good episode.
Yeah.
It's used in custards. So a custard is a milk or cream that is cooked with an egg to thicken it. So this can be sweet or savory. Think quiches or creme brulee.
Scrambled eggs even.
Yes. So these are types of custards. It can be used to cook vegetables and fish as well. Some people say that this is very beneficial, though it's also recommended to add baking soda to prevent any curdling of your milk. There are actually, in fact, some vegetables that cannot be cooked in milk because it just straight curdles the milk. There's just a chemical reaction that happens, and the milk is just immediately coagulated. So examples of these are peas, carrots, beans, and asparagus. And I had to look this up because I was almost positive I have seen carrots in milk before. Like, I had seen a recipe or something that does that, and I looked it up. This is not true. I've never seen some, because it just thickens. It just immediately beads up. But some people want it to do that, and they consider it a meal. And I was looking at some carrots and milk recipes, and the way they described it is when the milk dries up, it's done. It did not look appetizing. If that's your home recipe, more power to you. I don't think it's for me.
That's something.
Yes, but, with other vegetables and fish, it's just used to kind of enhance the flavors, give some sweetness, give some creaminess. Other uses in general, there are milk facials, because it's very beneficial for the skin. This is mostly done with reconstituted dry milk, because it's easier to make a paste rather than a liquid, which is better for facial masks. It is used to treat sunburns and actual burns. It can be used to remove makeup. Same with the facial. It's, make it into a paste and it can help remove your makeup. It is commonly known to be able to remove ink stains from clothing. If you give any ink stain a milk bath, it should be able to come out. It is able to soften calluses. As mentioned, it is good for the skin. It can take the edge off of spicy foods because the protein in milk, casein, binds with the capsaicin in spicy foods, and the capsaicin is what's making it spicy. So if you bind these two together, that's what takes the edge off, because now it can't get to your receptors for sensing the spicy food.
If you're ever in a pepper eating contest with a friend, give them some milk, be kind, then give yourself some cream, and you'll be kind to yourself too.
Yes. It can also be used as fertilizer because, as mentioned before, it has lots of nutrients which are good for plants, just as much as they are good for people. And this was a really interesting one. It's able to repair china. So if you take, let's say you have a teapot, china teapot, or any chinaware that has fine cracks in it, if you fill a pot with enough milk to submerge your china in, you put it in, bring the milk to a boil, and then lower the heat and let it simmer for about 45 minutes, the milk proteins will actually diminish the fine cracks in your china. I thought that was really cool. I don't have any fine china. It is super
cool.
Yeah, I don't have any to test it, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So that's about all I have on milk.
Yeah, no, that was really good. You covered most everything that I've got here in my notes. So my little recap will not be that long.
Nice.
So thanks for that.
Nice. What'd I miss?
So, first place I'm going to start is with your comments on fermented milk.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yes.
In Mongolia, still to this day, one of their key drinks is this kind of fermented yak milk that everyone drinks. Like, it's just a thing that they have. So, just a fun little extra milk thrown in there. Fermented yak's milk.
What is it called?
I think it's like kumis.
Kumis?
I'm going to give it a quick Google.
He's Googling, folks.
Yeah, kumis.
Nice.
Yeah, fermenting raw and pasteurized mare's milk. Because why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's what you got and it the main purpose of fermenting milk is preservation.
Exactly, and it did preserve it for hundreds of years, and so they just still go for it.
It's just a single drink that's been preserved for 100 years.
That would be a lot.
That'd be a terrible milk.
We could have an episode just straight on old foods that have been found. Have you heard of the thousands-year-old bog butter?
Yes.
Yeah.
The bog butter, the stone bread, there's a lot.
The cheese in Egypt or something like
Yes,
that.
and everybody's talking about the ancient grilled cheese.
Exactly, yes.
We'll talk about that someday.
Some other day. Also, somebody made wine with a 2,000-year-old yeast found on a shipwreck.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a wild time.
All right. Little sidetracked, but back to milk.
It's fine. It's fine. There's not much to cover. You covered a lot of this.
Well, you're the one who said you had more to say.
Yeah, just a little bit. Not much. I'm finishing it up. Okay, so the benefits of milk.
Oh, yes, benefits.
Going back to that, I'll start with the recipe stuff. You mentioned this a little bit, but I just want to say personal experience. Yeast blooms best in milk. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of milk. It is so good. That stuff works so well, and it just works great. For sauces, mix a little flour and milk in the bottom. That you get yourself a roux.
Yes.
Makes really thick, really creamy sauces. So good.
Yes, that is done to get rid of some of that flour flavor. I'm pretty sure I read.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, and it helps cook it a little bit at the beginning of the sauce making process because you want to use the flour to thicken it, but you also want your flour to be cooked, but you also don't want the flour flavor.
Yeah, and then you can also just add milk into a sauce later if you're wanting a creamy, kind of thicker sauce because it helps thicken it too. But yeah, good stuff both there and everywhere around that was just good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just everywhere around milk and sauces. It's fantastic, man.
It does make some good sauces.
I'm not saying throw it in spaghetti sauce, but in a lot of other sauces. It makes great sauce. The other benefits I was going to talk about, though. So if you may have heard the campaign for chocolate milk after a workout. It's not just chocolate milk.
Really?
Yeah, regular, just straight up white milk can work for after a workout as well because of those proteins that it has.
Yes.
They help decrease muscle soreness, increase your strength, decrease muscle damage, and encourage the recovery after a strong workout, big run, big weightlifting session, Chocolate milk is specifically zeroed in on, though, because it also has some carbs from the chocolate stuff, and that gives you energy.
Yes. Added sugars.
Really pumps you up, and plus it has all of those different milk benefits as well.
Yes. And it's tastier.
Oh, it's
if you
so
like
good.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
If you don't like chocolate, we're so sorry. There's a world of flavored milk out there for you.
Yeah. They got strawberry milk. They got banana milk.
They got root beer milk.
Yeah. Goodness, I just cannot wrap my head around that one. That one's...
My source, that was one of the specific ones that listed. Like, it was just a normal thing. And I'm like, excuse me? You want to run that one by me again? Like, that's a normal milk statement? Oh, yeah, you got your chocolate, you got your strawberry, you got your root beer.
Yeah, that's not expected.
I mean,
but
hey,
we got to try that now.
Let us know if root beer milk is common wherever you are. Yeah, like, if you see that in the grocery store, maybe, I don't know.
If it's a local thing, let us know, and let us know where you're from. But yeah, okay. You talked about this a little bit, but I found this interesting. The milk with higher fat contents lowers the chance of childhood obesity.
Yes.
I found a study about that, or a source that talks about a study about that. But essentially, the proteins, they make you feel full longer.
Yep.
They fill you up, and so you don't get as hungry as soon, so you're eating less. Then the conjugated linoleic acid helps break down fat and inhibit fat production, apparently.
Yes.
And, of course, calcium-rich... Not of course, I can't say of course. I wouldn't know this.
Yes.
apparently calcium-rich diets also help fight obesity in different ways. This was like one of the last things that I found, so I didn't have a chance to look deeper into it. But yeah, I thought that was really cool, especially because I always hear about, whole milk, it's so fatty, it's so bad for you.
Yeah.
But stuff tastes the best, though.
Yeah, and also milk is one of those examples of good fats.
Right.
Think avocados, peanuts, those are good
So
fats.
good.
They're not bad fats. So, well, yes, it is fats, and generally people see fats, and I don't want to be fat, so avoid fats. That's not necessarily the case.
Not quite how it works.
No.
Yeah.
So,
another thing, milk has been shown to prevent muscle loss, especially in older age people. So, as people are getting up there, drinking more milk, lose less muscle. Sounds like a great plan.
Great plan.
But here's a fun thing.
Fun thing.
Well, not fun thing, actually. It's a very sad thing.
Oh, no.
Drinking too much milk.
Oh, so your family.
Wow, thanks.
You're welcome.
But yes. It has been shown to link to not just, fighting osteoporosis that makes your bones brittle and strengthening your bones to a degree. It actually has been shown to kind of flip a little bit. Drinking too much milk has shown to make your bones to be slightly brittle. And especially hip fracture is a risk that comes with that.
Didn't I see that mostly in women? Wasn't that a big thing?
Mortality in women from this.
Okay.
I'm not sure what difference ladies. Was there. Yeah, no, really. Sorry about that. That's really sucky. But yeah, that was something that surprised me because you always hear, yes, drink milk for strong, healthy bones. Took that to heart and might have screwed myself over with that one.
See, I saw a lot of things, and people who are out there who are smarter and actual nutritionists or whatever.
Actual experts.
Yes, correct me. But a lot of the sources I saw, the sources for the benefits of milk were a lot stronger than the sources for the disadvantages of milk.
Definitely.
And it always felt like one of those kind of tricky things. Like, I saw one that said that drinking milk may raise the chance of prostate cancer in men because of the buildup of calcium. But it was one of those, what were my chances before? What have they risen to? It was just a lot of shaky stuff. And so this is a good example of, when you see your sources, make sure you question them, you scrutinize them. They might be true, they might be not. So, obviously, if we have said anything wrong, correct us if we are wrong. But also in your own research, if you know something, if you think you know something, make sure you know.
Right, yeah. And to go along with that, I found one of my sources talked about the whole cancer thing.
Uh-huh.
And it actually said that it also helps prevent some cancers.
Yes, I saw that as well.
Some cancers, also some other chronic diseases, like type 2 diabetes, apparently, is kind of prevented to a degree by milk.
Yes.
And yeah, that is all I have for milk.
Alrighty.
So we're going to take a little break.
Yes, though this is going to be an ad break.
Yes.
Because we are sponsored now.
Yes, we are. So stick around and we'll have some discussion when we get back.
Right on. So we shall see you all in a bit.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Hey, Riley.
Hey, Timothy.
Do you remember when we first started this podcast and we had no idea how to get started or do anything with it?
Oh, you mean like how we're still kind of operating?
Almost. Except back then, we had no idea what podcast service to use or how to even step into the world of podcasting.
No, we did not. I knew nothing about starting a podcast.
Well, then let me just say how glad I am that we found Anchor.
Yes, it has so many wonderful things about it that have helped us break into the podcasting gig.
Amen.
The first little bit is that it is free. That was one of our biggest concerns. There is no money required to host a podcast on Anchor FM.
Right, you can get your name out there. And another great thing that they have are editing tools for you to use on your phone, on your PC. You don't have to go out and spend money on an editing software for you to edit your audio. In addition to those free editing tools, they have a whole library of different music and sound effects that you can choose to add to your podcast, all for free.
That's a lot of good free stuff.
It is.
Yes. Another great thing is that they distribute your podcast to a bunch of other podcast hosting sites. So things like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, they probably send your podcast there. So it makes it more accessible than ever to all the people that you want to reach.
And once you get on your feet in the podcasting world, they make it super easy to find sponsorships and get paid.
Yes. So if you are looking to start a podcast, break into the podcasting industry, go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Do it. You won't regret it.
You will not.
And we are back.
We are back. Did you miss us?
We missed you.
Because we definitely missed you,
We
guys.
definitely did. So, continuing on the topic of milk.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
What surprised you while learning about milk?
I was honestly probably most surprised by all the varieties of milk. Not because I didn't know there was that many varieties, but just hearing how they were made. I knew most of the milks, but it had just never really occurred to me to think about how they were actually made.
Right, yeah. Like, for a long time, personally growing up, I thought coconut milk was just what you called coconut water.
Same.
Yeah.
I thought that as well.
Yeah.
I never really thought about what evaporated milk was, because my family has a lot of evaporated milk. We use it all the time for cooking and baking.
Yes.
And it just had never occurred to me. I think as a kid, I thought that evaporated milk was milk that had been evaporated and then condensed again. It's like we made all of the milk, all of it, the whole thing, into a gas.
Just disappeared.
And then it's
form.
just milk steam. It was just all the milk was in air. And then we condensed it again. And then that's how you got evaporated milk. But then I was always confused because you also had sweetened condensed milk. And that confused me because it debunked my evaporated theory, because if we evaporated it and it's a liquid again, clearly we condensed it.
Right.
So why do we have sweetened condensed milk here? I was just always so confused. So
yeah, to a degree, that it makes sense.
Yes. My brain did the best instead of actually looking up the answers.
Yeah.
Because who does that? Just make up your own answers. Am I right or am I right?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer. Okay.
But just all of that, just seeing some of these things, it just clarified so much. And it's just, this makes so much sense.
Yeah. Like you mentioned sweetened condensed milk. I thought that was a pressure thing. I don't know why, but when I was little, I would think, condensed, smaller, pressure.
That's how they fit it in the cans.
Exactly. That's like a gallon in
the
that little can right there.
Wow.
But no, apparently not. It's evaporated milk with some sugar.
Yes.
More or less.
And disclaimer, I am not a huge fan of plant-based milks. They're not my favorite thing, namely almond milk. I don't like almonds, and almond milk has a nutty flavor to it. I don't like that. But now that I know how they're actually made, I have not much more, but a little more respect for the plant-based milks. I always thought that we just stuck almonds in like a juicer and we called it milk.
Not quite.
Not quite. It's
Kinda
a little
close.
It was close, but a little more involved in that. But I was just so fascinated by all of these answers that I am getting to questions that I just never thought to ask.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I've never tried a plant-based milk. We drink just straight cow milk.
At all? Like never?
Never.
Really?
Yeah. No, we always buy the gallon whole, or not whole. We don't buy whole milk all the time. We get that as a treat.
Oh.
But like we usually go for 2% just from the store.
Okay.
Gallons of it. 6 or 7 gallons at a time. So.
That's insane.
It's wild. It's wild, man.
It is very wild.
But yeah, I've never tried a plant-based milk. I kind of want to now.
They're not my favorite.
Yeah, that's fair.
Admittedly, everybody's got their tastes, and obviously, if you are lactose intolerant, then
I'm sure they're great for you.
Yes, they're an excellent option. But even that's becoming a little shaky now because you have the lactose-free milk, where we're just here's some lactase. Enjoy.
Really though, I almost imagine that as like the guy who came up with it had just liquid lactase there, and then took a drink of milk and then a shot of lactase as a chaser.
I mean, I think we all know lactose intolerant people to defy that allergy to the nth degree.
I've known many people who have.
Yes. I mean, we both have a couple friends who we would go to this milkshake restaurant in Little Rock. It's called Purple Cow, and they're famous for their purple milkshakes. It's
That
very
place
good
is
stuff.
amazing.
Oh, great stuff. But they're lactose intolerant, but they want to get these purple milkshakes. So they would bring with themselves some lactase pills. They would eat the lactase pills before they would go in so they could have their milkshakes.
Yeah, that was a good time.
It was a great time.
I missed that place.
Yes, they sometimes forgot to bring them, and then they would have their milkshakes anyway. Not recommended, but...
No, not at all. Do not hurt yourself.
No.
Be careful.
Drink milk responsibly.
And don't expect your friends who are lactose intolerant to do this. Some people have it much worse than others.
Oh, yes.
So...
There's varying degrees of reactions. Some people, it just makes them cramp. It just makes them a little nauseous. Some people get long bathroom visits.
Ooh.
Some people, it's just full-on vomiting and just awful bad stuff. So if you have lactose intolerant, we feel for you, and we appreciate you, and we hope you find nice milk substitutes in your life.
Right. And trust your friend if they say, no, I can't have that because of lactose intolerance.
They probably
Even
can't.
if they have the pills. Just don't.
Just don't.
Don't push that.
Yes, respect allergies.
Yeah.
So what did you think you knew, but were actually wrong about when it came to milk?
That actually goes back to those plant-based milks.
Okay.
While I've never had any, I thought I knew how they were made because of a video I watched a long time ago. Apparently I didn't remember it very well.
Oh.
But I thought it was just straight up, you stick all the almonds or whatever in a bag, fine mesh bag, soak it in water for a few days, squeeze it out, and boom, there you go. There's your almond milk. It's a lot more in-depth than that.
Yes, I think that is basically how oat milk is made.
Well, oats are different. They're
Yes.
soft already.
Yeah, because that was an interesting distinction between oat milk and the other plant-based milks, because most of the other ones, the general process is take whatever plant you're turning into milk, soak it, and then grind it and blend it. So, you know, the plant's still in the milk.
Yeah, in that way, I think it's a lot like matcha.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you know anything about matcha, it is green tea leaves that have been ground up that you then mix with hot water. It's not just like a regular tea where you just steep the leaves and then drink whatever's left. No, matcha is made by grinding those leaves into a powder, and then you mix it entirely, and the plant is actually in there.
Yes.
That's like what these plant milks are in a lot of ways. The plant is actually in there, and that just kind of...
It is among us.
It blows my mind. Like,
I think it's so funny that the plant is among us, and it's the imposter milk.
Wow.
If you get that reference... That's a game for those of you who didn't get that reference.
It's a really fun game.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
But games are for my week. It's not my week yet.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, was there anything you wish you could have found but you could not find?
Past ways that people preserved milk. So, yes, we talked about fermentation a little bit.
Yes.
I remember hearing a podcast a while ago. It was talking about this murder that happened, and the way it was done was the murderess, I guess, lady murderer, who committed it, she owned a dairy factory plant, whatever the word for that is. And
I don't know.
For some reason in this dairy plant, she had a bunch of mercury. And so she kept mercury poisoning people, and it's terrible, absolutely terrible. But I remember thinking, why is that just a common assumption? Like, what is mercury used for in milk? Like, what is up with it?
I know,
so I tried to
why
find
is it
this.
with milk?
I tried to find this, and I couldn't find anything really definitive. It was just kind of, yes, there's possibilities for trace amounts of mercury to go through the cow's digestive. Well, that's not what I'm looking for, because this would be happening before the cow gives up, or after the cow gives up the milk, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, because dairy factories.
Wait, was the mercury, being used for anything?
Apparently, because it was a common thing that was bought for dairy factories, apparently.
And we don't know why.
I don't know why. I'm sure somebody knows why.
That's interesting.
I got around to looking this up again, late in the research game.
Yes.
But, yeah, that's something I would have loved to find out more, but mainly just so I can satiate this curiosity for this other podcast episode. But
yes,
yeah.
I mean, if you at least know what the podcast episode is, if it's ringing any bells, please let us know.
Yeah, I know it was in the Lore podcast. I mentioned them before in the Mummies episode, but
yes,
I don't remember which episode it was.
Okay.
So if any of you know, let us know, please.
Yes. Shout out to the Lore podcast. Thank you
Aaron
for giving
Mankey.
us obscure knowledge.
Yes.
That we can't quite remember.
He's really good at that. It's really great.
Yes.
But what about you? Was there anything you would look for that you couldn't find?
I was actually really interested in the chemical processes of cooking with milk, which I kind of found for baking. I found, what is it used for? This is why you use milk in baking, but not so much for cooking. Obviously it's going to add some fat, it's going to add some creaminess,
right,
it's going to add some sweetness, but, take sauces, take cooking fish in it. There wasn't a whole lot there like there was for baking. Like, this is why it is a baking staple. They just didn't really put it in the other things. And even what I did find, I had to essentially Google the base thing and then sometimes even make some pretty well-educated guesses about it. So, sauces. Okay, well, if there's a cheese sauce, you're going to need to get your cheese a little liquidy, so what are you going to use? You're going to use milk.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then some others, like custard. Look up what a custard is. Well, it's, thickened milk that has been cooked with an egg in it to help thicken it. So, okay, that's cool. There just wasn't as much of a consolidated, this is what's happening with milk and cooking, this is why you should use it in cooking, as I thought there would be. So it was just another one of those collections of knowledge that I was expecting to find and just didn't find.
Right, yeah.
And I was very disappointed.
Yeah, no, that would be disappointing. I looked for that a little bit, but I focused more on the baking, which you still covered. So.
Yes,
yeah.
And obviously it's very important in baking. Baking is a much more chemical process.
It's so precise. It stresses me out. Honestly.
It's a very precise art. So that makes sense, but it is used in cooking, and I was wondering how it was going to be used in cooking in the same way it's used in baking. Like, what are the specifics? Why to use it? And I just couldn't find it. It's probably out there in some super scientific cookbook, but alas, I did not find said super scientific cookbook.
Sad, but c'est la vie. It happens.
So, if any of you know why you use milk in various non-baking related cooking, I would love to know.
So would I. I love cooking, and I'd love to use milk more, just because milk rocks.
And you have 7 gallons of it in your house at certain times, apparently.
Yeah, well, true.
That's too much milk, man.
It's delicious.
Oh my goodness.
It's wonderful.
He does have a big family, so it's a little more understandable, but that's still a lot of milk.
Yeah, it's great. But I think that's all we got on milk.
That's milk.
Yeah. So let us know if you enjoyed it. Let us know if we have any corrections to make.
Yes.
And otherwise, check us out.
Yes, find us on all the social medias. It's all at KYN Podcast.
Yep, and send us an email at kynpodcasts@gmail.com.
Yep.
And
don't forget to join our Patreon page if you would like to support us in our podcasting endeavors, or check out our Teespring, both which will be linked below. Those monies help us
make the podcast better.
Yes, make it better.
Yeah. The more time and money we can devote to this will be more that we can just focus on making this podcast as good as we can.
Yeah, so any support that you can offer is appreciated.
Very greatly appreciated.
Yes, and we greatly appreciate you, donations or not, because you're listening to us and we love you.
Yes. Thank you for coming on this journey with us.
Yes.
And I believe it is now time for your hint.
Yes. It's for my hint.
For the next week. All right. Hit me with it.
So for next week, we're going to be discussing when 10 equals 2.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
All right. So 10 equals 2. This cannot be anything but programming. Right? I mean, that just makes... It makes so little sense that it makes sense as a programming term.
So, are you locking in at least programming?
Yes.
Okay, he's locked in programming.
I'm locked in programming. I am thinking it is like a reference a reference code. So like I learned a lot about Excel at one point.
Okay.
And you could say cell 10 equals 2. And I think that's kind of what this is. I'm thinking it's a reference code. Locking in.
Reference code.
Yeah.
We will find out next week.
I guess we will. Stay tuned and come back in a week. Know some more nonsense.
And
go drink a glass of milk if you're lactose tolerant.
Oh, you said tolerant, not intolerant.
Not intolerant.
I was like, you're just trying to kill our users?
No, not at all.
That's cool. Okay.
If you're lactose intolerant, go buy yourself some soy milk or plant milk or juice.
Or lactose free
milk, you know?
Milk, man.
Milk is great.
Man. All right, bye.